a little bit concerned because I've seen someone type something in the chat room there and it's not appeared there. So actually maybe I should just do a quick test. Test. Oh no, it is working. There we go. Okay, Kasasha, hi. I wonder why that didn't appear. How strange. But it has now appeared. So, yes. Free for anything that anyone wants to discuss. Obviously, I might do a mini one on Friday, actually, because there's going to be another Ian Hazakostas live Q&A this Thursday. It's another weird one, though, because it's not to discuss Legion for a start off. What's coming in Legion? Nothing. It's not even to discuss Battle for Azeroth. It's to discuss Battle for Azeroth, specifically the Alpha. Hiya, Korean. I don't even know what the parameters are. So everyone's throwing I threw a question in just for the hell of it. But hi, Fraser. Well, it's always on when I've got raid on, so I can only. What happens is I will basically miss it. I'll see what other people are saying about it, but the first chance I'll actually get to watch it is probably when well, possibly I could watch it after the raid now because we finish a bit earlier than the last guild I was in, so I might be able to watch it on Thursday after the raid. But usually, what I would do is come home on Friday. You know, stick some tea on and then watch it on YouTube downstairs or Twitch, sorry, rather, and then decide what I'm going to say about it. But yeah, I don't know, because if it's going to be on the Battle for Azeroth Alpha, and there's so far there's been a new build every week, at least one build every week, so people will be putting questions in now. And then what if another build goes live, say, today, and something changes about it, and that prompts questions, and then, I don't know, it's really weird. Hi, Jalorn. What do I think the odds are of getting Wake of Ashes and Hammer of Wrath baseline? I don't think the odds, I think virtually zero. I think the odds of getting either of them baseline is virtually zero, frankly. Hi, Albin, wow. But I mean, that's all that's happening at the moment. I have to confess, I really don't know. I've probably sort of come to peace with the fact there's not going to be any more raids in Legion, even a mini one, which is disappointing. But surely there would. I'm just so surprised that there's not going to be something else for at least to push the story along. I'd be very disappointed if the next tranche of story came with the pre-expansion patch, because that'd be like August. That's ages away, absolutely ages away. But there it is. So it's just fully on. So that's why I've not done a WoW flash for the last couple of weeks, for which apparently I've had withdrawal symptoms. Apparently I introduced that for the mailbox that I did on Sunday, but there just hasn't been any news. There's been nothing at all for Legion. It's all about Battle for Azeroth. There's all this stuff. People are getting very excited. It's actually really annoying. There's a number of videos, as I always do, that where I think to myself, okay, I need to do those videos, and then they get put off, and they get put off. And then I noticed someone else has done it. I thought, oh, there's no point anymore. Hi, Mirthas. So. But yeah, so quite a few people going on about the human druids, which I'm not sure about. I sort of think kul'tiras is likely to be the next allied race, of course, because who else? But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be human druids. Preacher's video on Alliance versus Horde question was good for once. I haven't seen that one yet, but I mean, I've said as well, when I've been streaming it, because I've been doing both as well, Alliance and Horde. I don't have a problem with the Alliance question. The Alliance question's fine. There's nothing wrong with it at all. But the Horde quest, it's not that the Horde quests are better per se. It's just that there are very strong an important lore elements to them, which gives some extra significance to the Horde quests, or the major quest lines at any rate. Whereas the Alliance ones are just on the quests. They're fine. They're perfectly fit for purpose. It just lacks the significance of the Horde ones. All Druid forms will be pig variants. No, well, they won't, because the reason why people are going on about this human... I know what you mean, though. I've just got that, by the way. It would be funny if there was at least one pig form. But yeah, the reason people are going on about it, because when I was streaming a couple of weeks ago, they put a quest in where you rescue someone from a big flower monster. And it looks very much like the thing from WoD, actually. They've used the same skin. But anyway, you rescue this person, kul'tiras, and she suddenly turns into a feral kitty. And then you go back, and there's this other guy, goes, thanks very much, who's the one who gave you the quest. And he calls her saplings. It's all very druidy. And so, yeah, so there's druidism in kul'tiras. Fine. It could well be that there's going to be human druids. But it also, and you know, but it might well be, we have to consider that, for example, there's a Night Elf Paladin was introduced in Legion, but Night Elves aren't Paladins. So just because they introduce a race-class combination in NPCs, it might be an indicator that they're planning to bring it out as a choice, but it might equally be that they just fancy doing that. Proudmoore lore still has to be added. There is actually some, because there's a quest where there's a mini Civil War-y type thing. So there's Proudmoore militia, effectively, or you know, against some other guys. So they have added a bit in last week's build. But yeah, I imagine there's more to come. The Botani people, no. The ones that actually looks like a flower monster. Hang on a minute. Let me see if I can find a screenshot. I think because I was actually going to do a video on the kul'tiras Druids, but and I've got all this clip. I've got it all there. I just didn't edit it, and now I can't be bothered because everyone else has done it already. I should. It's my fault for just leaving it. I don't like to do videos that other people have already done. Where is it? Human Druids. There we go. But there was a Pandaren DK in what was there? Oh, like a follower, was it? I don't remember that. But yeah, I mean, well, you know, if it was, that's the sort of thing that, as I say, Blizzard will do, and then they'll just turn around and say, no, you can get these things in. I say it's a flower monster. I'm a bit wrong. Now that I'm looking at it again, it's just a fungus monster, but never mind. I'll clip it anyway. Right, where are we? Hi, Diablo, by the way. You never mind that. How are you? Oh, you spelling it. So cheeky. So cheeky. Right, okay. Where is it? Where? There. So this thing, and then the kitty comes out to play. Lethraxian is a paladin, yes. See, they changed the lore on Nathrazim with Legion, very sneakily as well. You only really got it with the audio drama they released, because, you know, the previous lore was Nathrazim were demons, and then of course when Sargeras, you know, who'd been imprisoning them all, said, look, I'm your boss, and if you agree that I'm your boss, I'll set you all free. To which they all went, yay. But then they've changed the lore so that Nathrazim were a bit like Draenei. They were just normal people, and then they were corrupted into demons. Except some weren't, and Lethraxian... No, Lethraxian actually was, But then he changed from his evil ways. It's all really weird now. But yeah. So in the Paladin Order Hall, we've got a demon that's a Paladin, although he's not a demon apparently. We've got a Night Elf that's a Paladin. We've got a dead Night Elf. I don't know whether he's supposed to be a Paladin or not. Or whether he's just... Because not all of our followers are actually Paladins. I don't think. That's weird. It's all weird. So yes, we've got a right mix in there. Very few. And we've got an idiot in there as well. Let's see if I can find a picture of the kitty. Oh. Right, there's the kitty. Oh, Maximilian of Northshire. I don't actually have him. I would be more than happy to have him, though. I haven't actually bothered to go out and get him. There's a few followers I don't have. No, he'd be fine. I'm happy enough with him. So, actually, this... I keep forgetting to... When I put a thingy in, to put it down there. Right. Where is it? Kitty. It's not very clear. I've done it from quite a small screen. But the reason I don't have him is because I can't be arsed going out. I really can't be arsed with the minutiae of Legion anymore. Can't be arsed. I don't even do emissary requests anymore. Cannot be bothered. The mission I have, the only missions that are of any interest to me, occasionally I send a few out anyway just for the hell of it. But the only missions I really bother with are the ones that give me the mythic cache and the seal. To wit, I've got another one now for which I need to do Imanar, which means basically doing LFR. At least it's not Coven again. Oh my god, can't be doing with that. What unplayable race in Warcraft lore would you expect as Paladins? Unplayable, what? Not know that there's any that I can think of. But anyway, we'll get rid of those. Most races are playable, apart well the realistic ones. I tell you another thing I'm a bit well, not concerned, wondering about, and that's why there's so many Paladin-y things in Borrelus, in kul'tiras main city. Because at first there was the Uther statue, which is the thing is because it's a carbon copy of the one in Stormwind. I just thought, oh, that's just a placeholder, which I still bet it is. It makes no sense to put the exact same one in. But all of a sudden there's appeared to be these like Paladin tomb things, but they're really small. And then I don't think they are a carbon copy of something from somewhere else. So I don't know what they're about. I've no issue with undead paladins. I mean, I'd rather if they had undead paladins than Tauren paladins. I mean, I don't know what they were thinking of there. I really don't. It would have been so much easier to have just done undead ones. But they didn't. Done these instead. They've also, I've just noticed they put up today, Wowhead, the Paladin post we'll be doing. And there's absolutely loads of them. Because at first, like, there's about 5 of us Rets that they asked to write something on. And we were only allowed to do a page and a half. And I thought, oh, okay, fair enough, because there's going to be quite a lot of us doing it. And then I saw Wowhead say yesterday, oh, you know, it's going up for Paladins. And I thought, oh, is it all Paladins? It's going to be absolutely rammed. And it is as well. So far they've done it for Warriors, Druids and Warlocks. And you read through that. It don't take that long to read through those. And then Paladins, it's just, poof, loads. There are not going to be any known Paladins. Ian Hazacostas himself has said no. That's all there is to it. I wish I'd have recorded the video, because when I went to find it, and you know, someone showed it to me, they linked it to me, and I thought, oh, good. And then a couple of weeks later, I wanted to link it to someone else again, and it wasn't there anymore. It's, you know, been deleted, which is annoying. So I wish I'd have kept a record of it. I heard you weren't fond of Zeal. No. I don't talk about Rets too much in this one because this is a general one, but you say it'll have good synergy with Blade of Wrath. It won't. It has nothing to do with Blade of Wrath. But Blade of Wrath itself may not make it through to live. What am I expecting from the live Q&A again? So, if they're ready to do another live Q&A, it must be that they're ready to push something significant in the alpha. Because, think about, if you were to list all the BfA features, right, the new features coming, at the moment, none of them are available to test at the moment on the alpha. At the moment. So, you've got Azerite armor, Warfronts, Island Exploration are like the 3 big things coming. And so far, none of them are available. So it must, well, surely it must be the case that one or more of them is about to become available. Otherwise, why are they doing a Q&A? And given that the Q&A is specifically... Because remember, it's not about Battle for Azeroth. It's about Battle for Azeroth Alpha. It's specifically about what is there in the alpha. So it has to surely be timed to coincide with whatever they're pushing this week. Kul'tiras don't really look like they be smart enough. That's not very nice. But they're, you know, you say not holy enough. Well, there's lots of Paladin artifacts in Borrelus. Did I... Hang on a minute. Did I find somewhere? Did I get a picture of it somewhere? God forbid if you ever get sick and one of those Make-A-Wish people show up. I'm saying known paladins can rest easy. Well, what if someone else gets sick and says no known paladins? You'll cancel each other out. And as I'm more likely to get sick than you are, then, you know, that's what I would do. Except I don't think Make-A-Wish would, you know, be interested in me. You get the feeling they're falling behind on their schedule for BfA. I don't know about falling behind. I think they did fall behind. As I said, when the last patch came out in Legion, and it basically buggered everything, and some of it's still not working, even now. Like, it was absolutely maddening. Everyone was behaving as if, oh, it's just one of those things. A few days later, it's all fine. No, it wasn't fine a few days later. It was unplayable. Unplayable. And even, like, we're over a month later, and there's still some things that's not completely fixed. Although it is now much, much better. And so, yeah, I think that cost them in BfA. Because, remember, the things that broke the game with that last patch, 7.3.5, were the things they were putting in for BfA. It was actually technically BfA stuff that they were trying to get in early to give it a proper road test, which you can see why now. Undead priests look holy enough? No, well, they don't look holy at all, but I've got no problem with Paladin, Undead Paladin. The recent Q&A been disappointed. Well, that's because the last Q&A was there purely and simply to push the Allied Races thing. It was, and promote the Advanced Orders. That was what it was for. It was a marketing thing. It was an infomercial. I think is the term. The other thing is, someone was saying, yeah, was it yesterday or something? It would be quite funny. Because on that last Q&A, there were so many questions about PvP. Like, ridiculous number of them. Where nothing new has been in PvP. It'll be quite funny if there's even one question. Someone was saying, I wonder how many PvP questions are going to be. Technically, there should be none. Because there isn't any PvP even in the alpha. It's not possible to even test it. You can't even get your honour talents. Because I was wondering where they were a bit ago. And then someone pointed out you don't get them till your level cap. Which seems a bit strange to me. Because we have them at level 100. I know we didn't get them till 110. But does that mean that when BfA comes out, they're suddenly going to disappear? And we don't get them back until level 120? That would seem weird. But at the moment, they're not. I can't use them in the alpha at all. They're not there. They just don't exist. You're worried that because it's an alpha Q&A, it gives them the immediate default answer where it's alpha, so we're still working on things. Well, that's the answer at any rate. The thing is, even during Legion, they've been willing to say that. That's what surprised me about Legion. Usually, because that's why I was so het up about class balance before Legion came out, because as soon as the expansion comes out, they don't really muck about with it then. Whereas in Legion, they did. They were changing baseline abilities, which I've never really known before. So that caught me out by surprise. They made sure to fix the OP dungeon leveling boost. Well, I don't know what their problem is with that. Still haven't done a video on that. Maybe I'll do that after this. But I don't get what their issue is. What was I looking for? Oh yeah, I was going to try and find a picture. I'm not sure if I took one though. I may not have done. No. Accessible answer in some cases. It will be. I think what they're more likely to focus on is concepts again, like they did at BlizzCon, but maybe fleshing some of them out a little bit more. Especially as some of the things they said in the last Q&A have clearly been dropped. They've abandoned their philosophy on some things. They've changed things. They said, because I think coming back to Paladin's getting Hammer of Wrath, so it went away in Legion because they said, oh, it's an execute. And we don't want executes because that's a warrior thing, even though Shadow Priest got to keep theirs. And then in the last Q&A, he said about Battle for Azeroth, they're going to double down on the uniqueness of classes. So that, and that was given, an example of that was removing Displacer Beast from Druids as a talent option. And that got me thinking, oh shit, because their big problem is which is acknowledged, that they focus too much on specs being too unique. Which means instead of having to get uniqueness for 12 classes, which is still a lot. 12 classes is a lot for a game like this. But to try and do that, but when it's like 36 specs really, because if you try and make them all very different to each other, it's really like having 36 classes. And that's just ridiculous. You can't do that. So yeah, I was thinking, oh God, what we're going to lose now. And then all of a sudden we get Hammer of Wrath back, and I'm thinking, okay, well that's a bit weird. And now we're being asked by the class, the WoW developer that was talking on Discord exactly this time last week, so I missed half of it, about potentially, no, they're not saying definitely, but potentially changing it so it's a pure execute as well. So that means that philosophy that was stated by the game director this year, just over a month ago. In fact, well, a bit over a month ago, 6 weeks, 7 weeks maybe. They've abandoned it. They've dropped it. It's gone. Should the undead be able to be paladins? I don't know. But I wouldn't have as big a problem with it as Tauren, like I say. I wouldn't be that, but, I wouldn't even raise an eyebrow now, quite frankly. It's also been less surprised. I mean, before Night Elf mages came in, you'd have thought, well, no chance to Night Elf mages. The law seemed to suggest that would be completely unrealistic. And then people went, oh, no, there was this whole quest where Tyrande let them back in, blah, 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 blah. Well, it doesn't matter. They can come up with a quest to explain anything, but it doesn't actually explain it. It's just making it a thing. That's just Blizzard's way of saying, right, we're going to bring this into the game now because reasons. They also mentioned the uniqueness of two-target cleave, yes. So basically, the only classes that are going to be able to two-target cleave, or the only specs specifically that are going to be good at it, are Arms Warriors, Frost Mages, and Destruction Warlocks. Nobody else gets effective two-target cleave. Yes, he was called Cephas in the Paladin Discord, yes. Is that just a miscommunication? No, I think it must be a change. It will be a change because you've got to remember, individual class designers, when it's something like that, that's obviously not a decision they make. That's got to come from above. That's got to, any overarching philosophy that covers everything has to ultimately come from the game director. Because something like that impacts not just the class design team, but the encounter design team and the PvP team as well. So something like that has to come from someone very senior. So that will be a change of, they've changed their mind. You know, they've just changed their mind. Which is good. You know, changing your mind from something that's the wrong path to take is always a good thing. I never criticise people for changing their mind when they're wrong. There's already a bunch of undead in the Argent Crusade. Well, yeah, but I don't think that's by choice. As in, I don't think they were undead by choice. I don't think they felt like kicking them out just because they died and been raised back up. Especially at the time. I mean, Argent Crusade was supposed to be at the time when Arthas was still the Lich King. And if they could break free of the will of the Lich King, then it was all fine. We can't really trust lore these days for any future expansions. No, we can't. This is my issue now. I mean, the Warcraft Chronicles Volume 3 is coming out at the end of this month. Ironically, it comes out... It's released on the first day of my holiday, so I can actually pre-order it, and it should arrive on, you know, my first day of my holiday, which would be nice. But I'm also thinking when I get it, how eagerly am I actually going to be reading it, given that, one, it's bound to contradict a lot of things that I know it is, because obviously some stuff's been leaked. But it's going to contradict some stuff that's, you know, I would consider established lore already. And secondly, yeah, exactly. Who knows when they're going to change it again on a whim. No. And it's why there's no point, really, in reading any of the old novels anymore. Because sometimes I've thought maybe I should just go back and read all the novels, not just the one, you know. But then I think there was no point, because why? Most of it has been discredited. And what hasn't been discredited could easily be discredited in the future. Inventing Void Elves out of nowhere. Well, but they sort of are High Elves already. The thing is, I don't know realistically what is the distinction between Blood Elves and High Elves, other than they changed their name. Okay. So I don't know what the distinction is. I know there's a few elves that obviously, like Illyria herself, that I think that's what Void Elves are about, you know, because I think bringing Illyria back, she was obviously an example. I mean, she's not the only one. There's, it's not the same as between Night Elves and Nightborn, though, because the Nightborn have changed physiologically, whereas the Blood Elves that we've got now were High Elves, weren't they? And they just basically, all that unpleasantness happened in Warcraft 3, and then they changed to Blood Elves after that. Now, the only distinction is really between High Elves and Blood Elves is that there are High Elves that are part of the Alliance still. So that seems to be it as far as I can tell. You know, High Elves are just the Blood Elves that didn't join the Blood Elves and stayed with the Alliance. Whereas there's no real difference to look at. Yes, but if it was a horde, then you would call it a blood elf. But anyway, I think that's the reason. I don't think the High Elves really have any identity anymore. They're just what would have been Blood Elves if they'd have joined Kel'Thas's group. It's more of a faction than a racial thing. Cats get poked all the time. I don't know where that comes from. They sometimes quite like being poked. And when they don't like being poked, they don't do anything about it because they're too comfy. They just remember it and then later on come and slash your furniture. Or shit in your shoes or something like that. Like I was talking, you only got half of this yesterday in the stream when we had our guild raid. And there was someone describing how their cat kept disconnecting their keyboard. You know how usually cats will just lay down on the keyboard? It's like, oh, you want to type, dear? That's too bad. This is where I'm laying. Even though you know it's uncomfortable. You know, cat people go, oh, isn't that cute? Oh, it just wants to be with me. No, that's an uncomfortable surface to lay on, right? The reason it's doing it is to spite you. Because you are showing the monitor more attention than the cat. And that's a crime in the feline world. But this particular cat, yeah, just keeps yanking the keyboard cable out. It's a bit smarter than the average cat. Not that cats are stupid at all. So, and I was saying, and he was saying he was trying to sort of shoo it away. It didn't work. And I said, well, what you need is a little water pistol. You know, you don't have to soak it. Just a little squirt from a water pistol. They don't like it, and it'll dissuade them. They'll disappear off. And he said, no. He said what he's done is he's basically taped it in place. I'm thinking, well, that's a typical cat person attitude to take. You don't see the cat as the problem. What you see is the fact that the cable can be pulled out is the problem. No, the cat is the problem. My keyboard cable never comes out because I don't have a cat. It's just identifying the wrong problem. That's what cat people do all the time. And in fact, there's a really good story from the news a few years ago. I always tell this story about cats because this is how they are. So there was this cat, well, there was more specifically this cat owner who, it's one of those cats that goes out at night causing trouble. Okay, you know, leaving little messages on my front lawn, for example. Which now, thank you very much, means I have to go out and buy a spray and spend my time spraying the bloody grass. As you know, bloody time for that. Anyway, so this, you know, and it came back in the morning to get its breakfast. So I'll come back to that in a minute. So one morning the cat wasn't there. The woman was distraught. Okay, fine, their cat hasn't returned. So she tried to put it out on Facebook, stuff like that. Oh, my cat's gone missing. Eventually, this message gets out, and some woman says, I think this is your cat. She sent a picture of it in the hedge, and it was about 1.5 miles, 2 miles away, something like that. And the woman, oh yeah, that's my cat. So she drove to where it was, opened the car door, the cat jumped in. Off she went, back home. All right, gave the kitty its breakfast. Next morning, the cat wasn't there again. And she went, oh, I wonder if it's in the same place. And it was in the same place. So now what happens with that woman? Well, this was a few years ago. I don't know, but assuming, but certainly for some time after it, that woman every morning now has to drive 1.5 miles or so, pick up the cat and take it back. That cat has got that woman trained. See, that's a cat person attitude. A sensible person's attitude would be, well, the cat's doing it on purpose. It knows where we live. When it wants its breakfast, it can come home. It'd be simple as that. But no, coming back to this. So you're saying, what, water close to the PC? The water wouldn't be close to the PC. It would be close to the cat. Unless you're a terrible aim with a water. I'm not talking about a big super soaker. I'm not an animal, right? Little water pistol, little water pistol. If you can't hit the cat with that from point blank range without getting it all over your PC, what hope is there? Because, no, you don't do it when the cat's behind taking the cable out. It's too late then. Your cable's out. You do it when you know it's going to do it. Cats are not very good poker players. You always know what they're up to. They always give themselves away. As soon as it comes slinking in, water pistol, psh, gone. Miss Spritzer. No, you wouldn't. No, nothing that goes out like that. Little water pistol, just a little tiny jet. Sorted. It's so easy. In fact, I'm not speaking like hypothetically here. I had a friend who had cats, and one of his cats, what it liked to do was to open the DVD player, right? When they'd be watching a DVD, right? It learned what the button was to make the drawer come out because it was fascinated. What this cat used to do to begin with when they got it, like, you know, they used to be fascinated with the disc going in. And when you used to press the button to make it go in, it would run round the back to see where it had gone. Okay? Eventually, it learned where the button was to open the drawer. So they'd be sat there watching a film, right? And the cat would press the button and the DVD would come out. So they started that and it worked. So this works. This is how you do it. But cat people don't see it like that because they've been trained. They keep thinking of all these obstacles and barriers. So they've identified an imaginary problem to solve. I mean, you know, if a full-on cat person had had this cat with the DVD thing, they'd probably think what the solution was to tape the drawer up. Which still wouldn't work, by the way. Your mother trained you with wooden spoon and Catholic guilt. Oh, well, that's a good way to. The Zandalari cat form. Well, they're all, I mean, technically they're all hideous because they're troll things, but at least they're interesting. It's nice to have new forms, isn't it? I mean, it had to be, you know, given what it is, it had to be quite different. Community seems split on it. Well, it will be, because it is different. I mean, the thing is, what I would argue, though, is you can have troll druids, so anyone who doesn't like the Zandalari troll forms, well, why would you play a Zandalari troll druid then? Just play a normal troll druid. Or a Tauren druid. Like, druid is pretty much the only class a Tauren has got any business playing anyway. So that'll be okay. What is this? Why am I being compared to Asmagorn? What's going on? I don't think he is lazy. Don't know where that's come from, though. I think he gives the impression of someone who's who is. But when you consider what he does on his stream, it takes a lot of... Well, to build it all up took a lot of organisation. Do I think they're going to reintroduce different attack speed for the same type of weapons? God, no. No. That would be mad. No, they normalised that years ago. There's been no point in doing that. Especially with the way it's all working now, because I don't get how it's working. Because at first, when we were doing those... When the first sort of alpha stuff was coming out, and it looked like all the spells, all the spell abilities had references to weapon damage removed, so it all looked like it was based on attack power. Now, technically, when the boffins, so to speak, have been looking under the bonnet on that one, or under the hood, depending on where you're from, it is linked to weapon damage, it's just in a weird way. But so I don't know how, if they did change the speeds of it, and therefore the actual damage it does on a white hit, it would affect things. It'd probably make a huge mess of things. So no, I absolutely don't think that they would mess about with different timings for them. Oh, my desk is a bit of a mess. I mean, it's not dirty, but it is cluttered, shall we say. I'm not even going to show you. Because that was a thing. I remember ages ago I promised. I still suppose I should still do it at some point. I sort of said how I set up my stuff for streaming. But the problem is, I thought at some point I'd have to show a picture of my desk. And it's not really fit for having pictures taken of it. He has termites and ants. Hasn't... Well, I mean, that's, you know, insects live amongst us. Hasn't properly cleaned his room in years to the point where he still has food from Wendy's from 2003. No. No. No, you got to be kidding. No, you got to be... He's trolling you. You can't have fast food left out for 15 years. Mankind would have been taken over by now. Did a desk cleaning video. Did he really? Oh, okay. Asman reminds you of someone who was locked in a basement or attic for years. He's still there, isn't he? No, I tell a lie. He did a video, didn't he, where he was outside recently. What was it on now? I think he did it outside because it's supposed to be something serious. I think it was not to do with World of Warcraft or something. Yeah, he was outside in the daylight. Thoughts on orcs being able to toggle straight or hunched over? Toggle it? What do you mean via the barbers? Because that's what they said, isn't it? They're going to have like a chiropractor type option. I mean, I don't know. If they're gonna, you know, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to toggle them if you're going to have the two different modes. Yeah, I will say that about Asmongold. Yeah, given the amount of junk food he supposedly eats, he may not eat that much. As far as I don't know. But, you know, you certainly see a lot of evidence of it on his desk. So, given the amount of he eats, to stay as thin as he is, he must have a massive amount of mitochondria. But then you would also wonder why he's not, you know, why he's able to stay at his desk for long periods of time. Because people like that are usually very, very hyperactive if they have to sit around for any amount of time. Yeah, I know he cares for his mother as well, yeah. Well, no. I mean, being able to stand upright is not like a race change thing. It's the same as us going to the barber to change our hair and tattoos and whatever else and piercings. It's just, you know, it's a trip to the chiropractor. What's going to be the Alliance equivalent? The Alliance can already stand upright. So we don't need anything. Apart from gnome removal. Maybe the barbers can deal with that. But yeah, we've already mastered standing upright. So you can argue we're already ahead of the game there. I wonder if, when orcs stand upright, they get a nosebleed. We'll have to find out. Not a race change, the thing you can buy called appearance change. Is there? I thought you just went to the barbers to do appearance change. I know that's only so many options. But anyway, I think they're only considering it like because it's one thing. I mean, it's not really an appearance change. It's not like a facelift, is it? You know, being hunched over to being stood up straight. And yes, Joe 6, that would be true as well. It wouldn't be right to charge for something they didn't have a choice of in the first place, yeah. Although quite a lot of the things they charge for, I think, are a bit, you know, beyond the pale. I mean, the argument for charging a lot for realm transfers and faction changes is the imbalance it would cause if it didn't. They wanted a punitive aspect to it, which I didn't believe for a second. But then how do you justify having to pay a lot of money for an appearance change which doesn't affect either your faction or which realm you're on? So that to me seems a little bit, you know... It does seem like the Horde is getting more allied race stuff than the Alliance. I don't see why. I don't see that they are. What are Horde getting that the Alliance are not getting? Like the Horde have got high mounted Tauren, which are basically just Tauren with moose antlers. You know, the nearest we've got to something that's not that much different is Lightforged Draenei, but at least they get some nice new abilities. Hunched over humans. Well, no, we might get the kul'tiras humans. So the old fat and thin humans, as people call them. Give your character scoliosis for free. Yes. There's plenty of Paladin races. Oh, yeah, not on Horde. Sorry. I still think they're gearing themselves up for Zandalari troll Paladins, though. I absolutely do. I believe that. And I know that people are taking that quest line to mean... And it's not an invalid conclusion to jump to. They're gone forever. I just think it's a lot of effort to go to piss off their customer base. What do you mean literally nobody cares about Lightforged? What about Power? What's his name? I've forgotten it already. Hang on. Taparos? What is going on? Hold on. Something weird is happening. Tapatos! That's it. Hang on a minute. Let's have a look. Realms are outdated. Realms are absolutely outdated. I agree with that. And I honestly think that if they weren't getting so much money from realm transfers, that I don't think that we would have realms in World of Warcraft in the way that we have them at the moment. Because they are, in terms of modern MMO gaming, they are an anachronism. But unfortunately, they seem to be a profitable one. So we seem to be a little bit stuck with them. Oh, the more Druid forms. Well, oh, excuse me. If, of course... let's say we do get kul'tiras humans, and let's say those kul'tiras humans can be druids, then that opens up the possibility for more forms. Now, I wouldn't take Wowhead's view that that might mean a load of Wicca type forms, because I don't think that makes sense. Those Wicca forms are not very natural, and druids are all about nature. Although pig form would be interesting, coming back to that other one. We've heard so little about Dark Iron Dwarfs. We have indeed. I mean, that's surely going to be something that's mentioned. There'll be one question that definitely will have to be answered because there'll have been about 100 people asking about it, which is Zandalari Paladins. Presumably, they'll also talk about Dark Iron Dwarfs as well. I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if in the next build, both of those are playable? You see a lot of Lightforged Draenei being levelled as you do in your Void Elf. I do too, actually. Well, not that I've levelled my Void Elf for a few weeks. Ever since I got into Alpha, I've just been doing that. Oh, for RP? Well, okay. I mean, you could still have RP realms. There's nothing wrong with that. But for everyone else, it's just a barrier. Not a helpful one. You remember when they opened up transfers from Silvermoon, Horde side, to two of the realms? Why? What happened? Other than the mass exodus of Horde players, I would have thought. But no, they could absolutely... See, that would also help RP realms as well. presumably, if they were separate as they are now, and then everything else was just mega servered. Yes, Silver Moon is basically an alliance. It's the only alliance realm of any substantial size. If you can somehow get shoes on the Zandalari, you're not going to. I mean, Draenei don't have shoes. So all their boots, they're like the boot skins, are just basically ankle bracelets. Fairly beefy ones, but you know. So, oh god, again. Draenor is the Horde equivalent. Yeah, but Horde have several zones. I mean, Draenor, you know, is likely to be the biggest one, but they've also got, what have they got? Taran Mills, also fairly big, Horde realm. Can't remember them now. There are several, though. I don't have to really pay attention to what they are because I'm not Horde. Someone data mine Zandalari with shoes. They're not going to look any different to, like, trolls, are they? Like normal trolls. They've got the same feet. Oh, PvE realms. Okay, well, yeah. There's not many of those at all. Yeah, one each. Horde and Alliance. On the EU side, that is, of course. Yeah. But, no, I can't even picture trolls with shoes. I can't even think of that. Doesn't really work. Maybe flip-flops and sandals. About the nearest you could get with it. Let me have a look. Oh my god. I just type into Google troll with shoes, and of course I just get a load of shoes that are like trolls, those silly dolls. Not really seeing any. Oh, I see. Hold on. What's this? Well, they're not completely covering their feet. I've seen there's a couple there. They go around their feet, sort of, and up their shin a little bit. You don't like shard, neither kind of ruined server community. Not that server community has been a thing in WoW. No, well, the thing that destroyed server community was transfers. You know, so in TBC that was eroded. The only reason there was any semblance of server community in TBC was because, one, with server transfers, you were locked in for 3 months. So if you changed your mind, tough. At least for 3 months. And the other thing is, it was quite new. And because it costs money, a lot of people just stayed where they were anyway. Because of said server community, they'd been moved away from people they knew and all that lot. But, yeah, I mean, it was the nail in that coffin, the final nail in that coffin, was server transfers. We need full-blown shoes on Zandalari trolls. Well, we'll see, but I've just got a feeling they'd look a bit silly. Check the Zandalari trolls heritage armor. You can see the toes. There you are, though. I don't really look in trade or general or anything, chat, really. It's the only thing that keeps me safe on the RP realm I'm on now, because that was my concern when I first moved to it. I hadn't have ever considered moving to an RP realm because I thought, well, I'm not an RPer, so that's not going to work. But then for some, again, I don't understand this. I first of all don't understand how it got to be that the majority of decent raiding guilds ended up on PvP realms, but you know, I can imagine a sequence of events that can lead to it. But how it is that full-on raiding guilds that have no interest themselves in RP end up on an RP server, That baffles me. Completely baffles me. I don't get it at all. But these things exist, and I'm in one. But the only way I could get... So basically, the guild itself doesn't give a shit. So as long as I don't do anything publicly, like in general, anything like that, to rock the boat, then I'm fine. I'm not in breach of any rules. But I don't engage in general or trade or anything like that, so it's all fine. Most PvP rounds populated from the jump. I don't know. I don't know what led to it. But I can imagine there was a point in World of Warcraft where maybe raiders liked to do PvP as well. Because I remember in Vanilla, in so-called World PvP, there was no way I felt in any great danger unless a whole gang of people beset me. Because, I mean, I was on a PvE realm, but if I decided to engage one of these big scraps at South Shore, say, or somewhere like that, then, you know, in raid gear, I kick the shit out of people. Because most people were in crap greens and blues, so I just wade through them all. So sometimes, you know, we would go into Battlegrounds just for fun. We weren't PvP players. We didn't know what we were doing, but we didn't need to know what we were doing. We just walked up to people and smacked them dead. So it might have been just the case that people liked to do it now and then, and they thought, why not? And they felt totally safe. I don't know. I cannot really think of anything. Hi, GMD. What are my thoughts on the Alliance story quest line development? It's fine. There's nothing wrong with the Alliance quest storyline. What it's been compared to, however, the problem is that the Horde quest line is weightier. The main quest lines have more lore implications. And yes, I did talk about this at the beginning. And as a result of that, comparing the two, yeah, the Alliance one looks light. Even though there's nothing actually wrong with the Alliance quest. And no, I didn't say we need more gnomes. And we need fewer gnomes. The only gnomes we need more of are Jeeves and Blingtron. Because there's never a Blingtron around when I need one. Actually, I tell a lie. There's always a Blingtron, but there's very rarely a Blingtron 6000. And actually, as I've got 2 level 110 characters with engineering, I should probably get off my lazy arse and get that sorted so I can have my own. You love going into BGs with heroic gear and wrecking people. Just think that's just mean. The look of the new Alliance zones, yeah, I've got this scene I've got behind me, because I say each week I'm going to do a different scene from the alpha. This one with some penguins there. That's from an Alliance zone. Maybe I should alternate and do an Alliance zone one week and a Horde zone the next. The reason for that, GMD, if it's been blown up your RSS feed, is apparently Preacher's done a video on it, so that might be why it's a talking point. And obviously anything at all that suggests any sort of bias towards one faction or another always gets people riled up, of course. I suppose as well, apparently there's been a fairly massive new wave of invites gone in for the alpha, so there should be a lot more people in the alpha now. Who is Preacher? Preach. He's a YouTuber, quite in terms of World of Warcraft, quite big. He's, let me think, in terms of active World of Warcraft YouTubers, he's got probably the second most number of subscribers. Although I would actually argue that the biggest WoW YouTubers, but because they're fairly new to the show, they don't have as many subscribers yet. I think they will overtake. You know, Evertel and Taliesin are bigger. But in terms of actual subscribers, because he's been doing it for a lot longer, Preach is the second biggest, I would say, current WoW YouTuber. Nobble being the biggest. PvP and RP brings people together, maybe. What? PvP doesn't. How does PvP bring people together? On a PvP server, it makes sense to do even questing in a group to prevent ganking. Okay. I've never experienced that, I have to say. I've never felt the desire to group with someone. The thing that encourages you to group together to do quests is making quests more rewarding by doing it in a group. Now, different MMOs have different ways of doing it. In Vanilla, for example, the way it was done was because mobs were quite dangerous, and you know, as characters, you didn't really have many abilities, so it would go a lot even a gathering quest, even though you'd have to be sharing the drops, would go quicker with two of you. Now, that's not the case anymore. If someone tries to join me, I will just be thinking to myself, they're going to be leeching off me because I'm going to do this a lot quicker than they are. So what do some other MMOs do? Some MMOs just straight up give you more experience. So instead of giving you less experience for grouping with someone, they'll give you more. You get more experience if you grouped with someone. So, but you'd have to give some reward for grouping in order to get people to group. Like more experience would be a classic way to do it. Talisa and Evertal, yeah. Well, they're definitely the bigger. They're very clever. They knew exactly what they were doing with their channel. They've done a really good job of it. And as I say, I would describe them as the biggest, even though Preacher, in terms of subscribers and stuff like that, is bigger. But I think that's just because he's been going longer. I think they are, you know, they've grown very, very big, very, very quickly. And of course, they've had the good taste to have been a subscriber on my channel for quite a while as well. I don't know how much of it they watch though. Yeah, grouping should be better for leveling, but as I say, you need some incentive to do it. This is what World of Warcraft does to me. Like, let's look at the different MMOs that I play occasionally. So, let's say I'm playing World of Warcraft. And I'm doing some questing, and then I see someone else questing the area. My first thought, is it, oh good, there's someone else? No. My first thought is, I hate humanity and I wish it would die. Alright? Why is this arsehole questing here? That's my thought. Because I know what's going to happen. They're going to nick my mobs. They're going to kill them really slowly, so they even take a long time to respawn, and they're going to be a pain in the arse. At no point do I think to myself, I should ask if they want to group, because I'll also instantly know, no, because we might have this quest in common, but I've probably completed all the other ones that they want to do, and then they'll look at me with sad puppy eyes. Oh, I've just got these to do as well. Do you mind helping with those? So I don't. I just muster under my breath. Now, Star Wars The Old Republic, if that happened, that's one of the games where you get extra experience if you group together. If someone asked me to group together in that, sure, I'll group with you in that, no problem. Elder Scrolls Online, someone's not necessarily... I mean, I never decline an invite for that, but you don't even need to, because it's all open tag. You know, if there's some mobs over there, as long as I do some damage to them, we'll both get the credit and we can both loot in, it's all fine. Admittedly, they've been doing that for... in World of Warcraft, they've been increasingly doing some of that, which is good. I mean, that's pretty good. Hang on a minute. What about things like WorldCrest Group Finder? Yeah, I didn't use it at all. I still don't use the add-on at all. I use Group Finder for... Or I don't anymore because I don't do them anymore. But when I did do them, the invasions on Argus, which actually at first I resisted. Everyone in the stream kept saying, just use the bloody Group Finder. Because what I would do is I'd go into these things and there'd be only me there, so I'd be basically soloing them, maybe with some other idiot as well, pulling too much. And I'd just be moaning and swearing and all sorts. And eventually I went, all right, I'll try the Group Finder, and it's actually loads better, so I do that now. But in terms of the add-on, I don't use it. I don't know. I don't like it. But yeah, people do swear by it. So let's have a look. Going in, you was worried about what would... Oh, right. Listen. Ever telling to listen. Both of them know their shit and are pretty... Yeah, they both play World of Warcraft, ultimately. You know, I mean, that's always nice for a World of Warcraft YouTuber. And it is good. I always think it's really good when you've got two people. You know, because they'll both have slightly different points of view, but they both respect each other. That is ideal. When you've got that situation... Because if you look at a similar situation like that, with the Fat Boss brothers, it sort of works, but they very rarely disagree. So it also sort of doesn't. You've got Preach and Ghost. So Preach is like the serious WoW player. Ghost is someone who flicks in and out of the game now and then and plays lots of other games. So that works really well together as well. So anything like that is absolutely brilliant. That is ideal. It's way, way better than just having one person. All the YouTubers I'm subscribed to, most of them, actually. Well, I say most of them. That's a lie. Who am I subscribed to? So, Evertal Taliesin, Preach, Balula, although he has been annoying me of late, but I'm not going to remove the subscription. I just don't watch any of his stuff anymore. It's just annoying, actually, because he's like brought out another video today that ordinarily I would have looked at it and gone, oh, yeah, that'd be really good, because that's his thing. You know, that's something he's really good at. He has got a really good niche. It's just that he's trying to do the everything thing, which ultimately means he's basically copying off people. And it's like, no. Who else? Asmongold, of course. Nobble. Who's the biggest one? Who else? Can't remember. Shit, we'll have to look it up. Because I subscribe to a lot. Oh, Heels vs Babyface. Final Boss. Because I subscribe to a lot of people that are not World of Warcraft as well. Oh, I subscribe to a couple of people I've been guildies with, but they don't necessarily have massive channels. The biggest one of which will be Word Up. He only occasionally puts videos on there. Although they're very well received when he does. World of Warcraft itself I'm subscribed to. That's encouraging. Method, Chinglish. Again, he's more of a Twitch guy. And if I'm honest, the main reason I subscribe to him is because in Legion, he described my Ret Essentials guide as the best Retribution Paladin guide he'd ever seen. So I thought, oh yeah, I'll subscribe to him. Flattery gets you everywhere. That may actually... Oh, Fat Boss TV, obviously. Lazy Pion, although he doesn't do World of Warcraft anymore. Actually, he doesn't do very much anymore at all. Signs of Kalani, although he doesn't seem to do very much these days. Let's have a look here. Oh no, you know he's still putting stuff out. It's not coming up on my feed very often though. What's that about? There you go. Those are the people I'm subscribed to, or at least the WoW YouTubers. Final Boss is Bay, who does the class synopses and stuff like that. He's basically a WoW journalist. He gets people on and does interviews with them. No, there's plenty of people that can have good views on it without having to be a Mythic Raider. Like, virtually none of them are Mythic Raiders. It's very difficult to be a Mythic Raider and keep up with a channel. Savix, no, I have seen his stuff now and then, but I'm not subscribed to Savix. Usually what happens when it decides like who I subscribe to, mostly it's when... Like, something will come up on the feed and I'll watch a video and I'll go, oh yeah, that was alright. And then I won't subscribe to them on the back of that. And then maybe sometime later, another one comes up on the feed, I'll watch it again. Eventually, if I get the impression that I'm watching quite a lot of videos by the same person, I'll subscribe to them. But if I'm not, then I don't. So either you know, if someone's worth subscribing to, it's either I'm not getting up on my feed or I'm just not watching. I'm not interested enough in the stuff they're doing. Because you can only sub to... Because if you sub to too many, there's maybe a danger you don't start to get... Like I've just said there, Signs of Kalani doesn't ever appear on my feed. I'd forgotten how to subscribe to him. But it's because I'm subscribed to 38 different channels. Not all of which are WoW channels. I mean, I have no interest in subbing to someone who does PvP stuff, I will say. Because I have no interest in PvP in this game. Kind of obligated to subscribe since I've been on his show. There is that too. I was subscribed to him before I was on his show. But yes, you are right. If I'd been on his show, if I hadn't already been subscribed to him, I would have had to at that point. Being fair. The only thing that really changed in terms of being on his show is that we followed each other on Twitter. Random BGs. Yeah, but you can't blame people for trying. You're not going to tell me. So you're saying we're clearly losing, but some people are still trying. You're not going to tell me you're one of those people that just goes lose FFS. You cannot blame people for playing the game. Not everyone as well. Some people might enjoy Battlegrounds, whether they win or lose. You know, I don't particularly enjoy them when I'm winning. Obviously, I hate it when I'm losing. But I don't particularly like it when I'm winning. Usually, the only thing that gets me into Battlegrounds is if there's a load of guildies going to be doing it and we're on Discord and we're going to have a bit of a laugh. Okay? That's the only time I can really be coaxed into them. Unless, of course, the game does some special promotion and I just think, oh, go on then. Or like in MoP where you had to do it to get your bloody legendary. Chef John from Food Wishes is awesome. I absolutely love him. He's got a really good personality for it. He's excellent. Yes, he is. Like, there's two cooking things I'm subscribed to. There's Chef John, or well, Food Wishes is the name of the channel, which is really good. Do you know what? I love it when he tries to pronounce Worcestershire sauce, because I think where he trips up is because in America they try and pronounce like Shire. But like Shire is pronounced Shire, but when it's in a place name, it's Shire, like Yorkshire, Lancashire, Shropshire, Worcestershire. But Americans always pronounce it Shire, so they'd say Yorkshire and stuff like that. So when you try and say Worcestershire, so it's like he's tripping up on his own like New York accent. But yeah, it's really good. And then Barbecue Pit Boys, they're also really good as well. For a completely opposite type of cooking show. Oh, you want the artifact appearance? Yeah, I think I did 6. I think I'm on something like 6 wins, and should probably just because now you don't, because you had to have your skin equipped as well. And I didn't like it, so I eventually took it off. And then yeah, now you don't even need it equipped, do you? So I should just do it for 4 more, I guess. That's rated Battlegrounds, though, isn't it? You have to do, isn't it? Isn't it rated Battlegrounds you have to do for that? Oh, it is. You've just said so. Sorry. It's AB. We need to get all 5 bases to win. No, but the thing is, people like to get all 5 bases because then apparently it's great fun to camp people at their own graveyard. Apparently that's hilarious. If they're from Boston, they pronounce it Worcester. Oh, yeah, I've heard that, yeah. WoW does a fairly good job of providing a little bit for everyone. I would still say they provide a very rum deal for PvPers. Until there is a fully implemented, like, properly separate continent, really, for PvP purposes, with proper objectives and proper terrain, where you can have it stuff to and fro, stuff that goes on for hours and be fun. until that happens, then I feel sorry for PvPers. I mean, there's nothing wrong with Battlegrounds and there's nothing wrong with arenas. But, you know, until they've got something in like ESO, where you've just got this vast map with forts and territories and stuff like that, then there is no proper PvP. There is no actual large-scale PvP in the game. And why wouldn't you want large-scale PvP? What he meant was that at that point the Horde was so far ahead that we'd have needed all 5 bases until the end to beat them. But even so, you know, you never give in. Even if you can't possibly win, you at least, you know, get every last bit of satisfaction you can. Delaying them a little bit longer is also a moral victory. Exactly. Go down swinging, smack someone in the face. Exactly. That's what I would do. You're Prestige 23. I'm not even Prestige 1. I haven't even got to the end yet, I don't think. Once. You'd enjoy PvP if Prestige was account-wide. Yeah. They never will, though, because I remember, like, because I can transmog the Marshal and Grand Marshal PvP gear from Vanilla onto my Paladin, because I got a certain PvP rank on my Paladin in Vanilla. But I can't do it with any of my other characters. And they came out going, oh yeah, but no, doing it on one character doesn't mean you could have done it on another. I was thinking, bullshit. I could easily have done it on any other character, because all I did was spam Alterac Valley. Well, Battlegrounds in general. That's all I did. I just went into Arathi base. I didn't like Warsong Gulch. Never liked Warsong Gulch. But Arathi Base and Alterac Valley, I basically just spent 2 weeks living in them. Could have done it on anything. Didn't even do it in a group. See you later, Diablo. I may not be back on when you come back. It depends how far away this burger is. You wanted the Unstoppable Force title. I don't even know what that is. I remember the Unstoppable Force weapon and the immovable object shield that you could get from Arathi Basin, or specifically from the vendors. Which was quite a nice little hammer, actually, in the days. It was worth getting your rep with Arathi Basin. It's the only one I actually got to. It was the first one I got to Exalted. And when did it come out, actually? Oh, is it? Okay, it's a PvP thing in Legion, is it? I'm trying to think. Because I remember when Warsong Gulch came out, where it was a more efficient way to PvP, so I was sort of forced to do that for a bit. And then no, I think Alterac Valley was next. And that had the one with the ridiculous queues. Took a long time to get in. But then when you were in, it took a long time to get out as well. Hours. Does Word Up still raid with echoes? Yes, he does. Well, as far as I know, he does anyway. Unless something's happened very recently. There's an officer there now, in fact, I think. And there was a thing in Vanilla as well. There was a super secret little area. Well, it wasn't secret where the area was, but you couldn't get into it. There was a little bit of place in Orgrimmar as well. But in Stormwind, in Old Town, where you could only go into it if you were above a certain PvP rank. It's like the officers' quarters. That was nice. So you could argue there was a little bit more special stuff about PvP in Vanilla, even though clearly there's more to PvP now than there was then. But there's no feeling, there's nothing special about it. Apart, well, you only get the mounts, I suppose. If you're a mount collector, then there's that. And I suppose some titles, as you've just noted there. What's my favourite Battleground? Alterac Valley, because you can play it like it's PvE. You know, it's quite sad. Alterac Valley is the only Battleground where you can basically not have to come across anyone of the opposite faction. You just all race past each other, cap the towers, go and kill the end boss. Perfect. Is there a crit mastery haste you aim for as a Ret Paladin? No. You must be... There's no, like, percentages to aim for. All the secondary stats for Rets are very close together. As a result, you just have to sim individual pieces of gear. If you don't like simming individual pieces of gear, which is easy on raid bots, by the way, but if you don't, then I suppose you don't go very far wrong by favouring haste mastery. AV is 75% alliance versus pre-made Russians. Well, I don't know what it's like anymore, because I don't do it anymore. I used to quite like it when I was... What, I can't remember what expansion it was now. A couple of expansions ago, maybe. A few. Maybe it was Morph. Maybe. When I was levelling a load of characters. And every now and then you would get these like call to... Every weekend was like a call to arms for some PvP battleground, where you'd get extra experience and stuff like that. And whenever it was Alterac Valley, you would get absolutely loads. You could go into an Alterac Valley, and if you won, you would just get loads of experience. It was a really quick way to level up. Obviously, you had to get yourself up to about level 50 first. They're not going for the win. They defend and go for honour kills. Well, then that's what a lot of people like doing in Alterac Valley, though. A big old brawl in the middle. So... yeah, that's just what people want to do. Warlock seed while sitting on top of a hill. Well, I remember you being able to go in and sniping people with my hunter. You know, getting onto something high, round a bit of a corner, ducking out the way, sneaking around on the rogue. There's lots of classes that have a very nice time if you want like an individualized experience in Alterac Valley. Paladins not so much. The only thing I liked doing on my Paladin was looking at a group of Horde across the way and picking someone out and going, okay, I'm going to run in and they're going to kill me because it's just one idiot running into a load of Horde. But I've got a target and I'm going to kill that target before the rest of them kill me. And it was a bit like me saying to that person subconsciously, you know, you might be surrounded by all your mates, but they ain't going to protect you. They are going to avenge you, but not protect you. Word of Glory does damage glyph was infrared. I remember that. I used to use that on Siege Master. Because every now and then when you were first learning it, if a weapon went through through the belt when it wasn't supposed to, sometimes you could finish it off with, like, you'd have Judgment and you'd have Exorcism, and then you could use Word of Glory if push came to shove as one last gasp effort to destroy it when it was no longer in melee range. Battle for Gilneas. I don't even remember that. Have I even done it? I've probably done it. But I do not... Blackhand, I think, is a German realm, yes. I can't even recall Battle for Gilneas. I may not have done it, or if I have, I've done it for you. Mind you, I haven't done a lot of battle, because I have done some rated Battlegrounds in Legion, again with people from the guild. It tends to be, what if it's mainly? It mainly tends to be that one, I can't even remember the name of it now, where there's 3 points. There's actually a couple, actually, where there's 3. Silver Shard Mines, I remember. Temple of 4 coloured orbs. Actually, is that Battle for Gilneas? Where there's like a windmill thing and 2 other things. Well, how does Blizzard allow pre-made groups? Because it's an MMO. They should encourage people to get into groups. Oh, so I do remember Battle for Gilneas then. Actually, that's a point. Yeah, when I was talking about where they're going to put Worgen, because I do actually think they are going to put them on kul'tiras and Borrelus, because I don't think those flags are they could be placeholders, but I'm now thinking that they're probably not. In which case, because I know a lot of people were saying, wouldn't it be good if they just retook back Gilneas, and you know, it's already there. They wouldn't have to do much work on it. And that would be quite good. And it's also in the Eastern Kingdoms. Oh, is it? Yeah, it is. Of course it is. And that would work out. Well, that Battleground wouldn't make any sense then, would it? Or it wouldn't make as much sense. I don't think that. I think they are going to put them on Borrelus anyway. What is this? But yeah, that's how they allow it, because they want to encourage people to get into groups. I mean, content, like, you know, a random Battleground is supposed to be the same annoying. It's the PvP equivalent of a LFR. It's supposed to be annoying. If you could see them doing work on Gilneas if they make it part of a war front. Would they do that? I suppose they might. Yeah. Greymane is actually the leader of the Alliance in practice. Well, advisor-in-chief anyway, isn't he? He's certainly, I mean, they've certainly located him to Borrelus in the Alpha at the moment. Oh no, there isn't another time walking coming up, is there? Oh, bloody hell. Cataclysm time walking. Guess I'll be tanking that one as well. But I mean, the question is, do they even want to just open up Gilneas? They might. I do think it is silly going from last week that there are now going to be very, very few Alliance cities. Only really 2. And they wouldn't have to tidy up Gilneas that much, would they? It could still... They just have to populate it, really. And I am still very curious as to where they are going to put the Night Owls. Alliance doesn't need so many cities, since the population of guilds are more in favour of Horde. Yes, very good. But the NPCs are what need housing. I don't need housing. I've got a garrison. I can just go there if I like. And an order hall now. Even though that's not phased. But actually, ironically, this is where the irony is. So, between the garrison and the order hall, although I'm supposed to be commander of the garrison, there are still gnomes in it. There's nothing I can do about that. But the order hall is the one place where there will never ever be any gnomes, and there never can be gnomes. Unless another player is foolish enough to disguise themselves as one, I suppose. You feel like the war fronts are being used as an excuse to update some lifeless parts of Azeroth. Or are you hoping for that? But I'm quite curious to see how the war fronts are going to work in practice. I'm quite curious to see how they're going to be, because there's quite a lot of elements. It sort of sounds quite good, but then I also think to myself, to what extent is it going to be essential that I do them? I wouldn't fancy having, on top of a raiding schedule, to have to do several Mythic Plus a week, you know, several island explorations, and I mean, you can't do war fronts all the time anyway, can you? They're supposed to be like a once a week thing anyway. But given that it's only, you can only do once a week, I'm guessing that means you will sort of want to do one. In which case, that could be awkward, especially if you miss doing it with the guild. Almost got run over by a truck. You feel like they get that from a lot of people trying to think of things to shut people up. Well, the thing is, they keep talking about getting people out into the world, and yet, for my money, they had a really great way of doing it. Just, you know, there's MMOs where people go out into the world, and I don't understand why Blizzard don't take a leaf from their books. The reason people don't go out into the world is because there's nothing to do, and basically forcing us like doing world quests isn't going out into the world. You know, it's dropping in to do a thing and then buggering off again. Especially once you get flying, because it's literally dropping in and flying back out again. You prefer a set checklist rather than the artifact power stuff we do now? I would just rather they did a weekly cap on Azerite and just choose how you want to get it. A bit like it was for Valor points. It's like, here are the different ways you can get Azerite. You do what you enjoy doing and you will get the Azerite. Oh, you'd rather be told do one warfront, one island, one raid, one Mythic Plus. Well, I mean, that would be better than the grinding, definitely. Two definitely is there. I would still rather it was just, you can get, I don't know, 2,000 a week. Where do you want to get it from? And it could be, you could get that from killing, say, 10 raid bosses, or doing 20 Mythic Plus, or doing, obviously you can't do 2 Warfronts, but let's say a Warfront gave you half that amount, or 40 island explorations, or some combination thereof. You started late in MOP. Were people annoyed or pissed about Valor and that's why it got dropped? No, people were quite happy about Valor points. The reason it was dropped is because, like, I don't really know. I think Blizzard said because they were talking, I suppose they were talking a bit about it with artifact power, and they just noticed that people used to get their Valor points like straight away in the week, and so people wanted to do content to get it and get groups. Let's say on the last day of reset or the day before, there wasn't as many people, so they wanted to encourage people to do it throughout the week, so that the people who left it till the last minute had people. Raid loggers are not ideal for a guild. The reason is, although I think it could be argued Legion has largely killed them off, and that's I would rather have raid loggers in the game than have what we have in Legion, because it's knackered so many guilds. But at the same time, the problem with raid loggers is they're not really integrating or gelling. You've got to think about a raid roster as a team, and just like any team, you need to have like bonding exercises outside of the main games, like training. You know, in a real sport, like a professional sport, you'd have training sessions and stuff like that. So you don't really get that from them, and therefore they're sort of outside of the normal social experience. But some raid log, I mean, I've been, before Legion, there were raid loggers in every guild I was in, and some of them were very good players. I mean, they wouldn't have been in if they weren't, because you're not going to have someone who's a raid logger and rubbish, unsociable and rubbish. Oh, well, they sound ideal for our guild. No. And we've basically lost them in Legion, because these people who don't want to farm AP, or they don't want to do even their one mythic, because for most of Legion, bear in mind, doing the one mythic plus to get your cash was the least you did. There's been times in Legion where you've actually had to go out and actively farm AP. If you're a progress raider, that is. It's a lot of stuff people have had to do at certain points in the game. And the people who just will not do it, they only want to raid, they got left behind, therefore can't compete, or they fell foul of the rules of the guild, can't find a guild that would raid at the level they would accept. So left the game. I know plenty of people in that boat that have left the game. There are also people that may not have time to play more than a few hours a day. Time is also a factor for some. But which is again why I think it's unfair. The whole purpose of artifact power, as far as I can tell, is to keep people subscribed. And yet it seems to have done the opposite thing. Because Blizzard have it in their head, in order to keep people subscribed, we must have them doing stuff actively every single day. No. You must have them doing something actively every single week. Because obviously no one's going to subscribe, pay a monthly subscription if they're only going to be active 2 or 3 times a month. But, at least once a week, that's all you need. And then it's fine. There'll still be people that unsubscribe, but I'll bet you there's in the same numbers that unsubscribe still in Legion. But all they seem to do with this system, I don't think it encourages those who would have unsubscribed between tiers anyway. And it's actively caused some people to leave who felt it to, that the game is forcing them to do content they don't really want to do. Well, a 1% is a good pull, surely. Well, to be fair, if you've got 2 hours, you're saying 2 hours to play WoW, you maybe don't want to farm AP and legendaries. If you've got 2 hours a day to play, you won't need to, because that wouldn't be enough to do progress raiding. If you could condense it so that instead of 2 hours a day, you did, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours on, say, Saturday and Sunday, then that'd be a different matter. What events didn't give AP or legendaries? Well, no, the thing is, Diablo, it's about the amount of content. So to farm AP and legendaries, it wasn't just that you had to do emissary caches and some mythic pluses as well as your raids. You had to do everything. So you had to do every emissary cache. You had to do your normal progress raiding with your guild, in addition to which, at least if you couldn't get into the guild group for doing it or you missed their time, pugging, LFR, normal, heroic, whatever else. So you'd do as many raid bosses as you could. And then you'd fill up the rest of your time with Mythic Plus if you were going to be super serious about it. And that, you know, because every time you did some of that content, you increased your chances of getting the legendary. But it's not just the level you're playing at though, Safian. It's even much further down that people had to do it. At the level my guild is at, people were still expected to farm AP. There were still minimum requirements of AP farming, which was well in excess of what a raid logger would want to do. And yet I've been in top 100 guilds that have raid loggers in past expansions, not this expansion, but in past expansions. And they were able to do it because the time they spent in raid was enough time for them to be able to actually learn to play well. And they were usually okay as well. Obviously, when an expansion first comes out, you've got a couple of weeks where you have to come on and just play a lot. They would do that, obviously, to level and gear their character up for the raids. And then they'd expect it to wind down to just raid hours and a little bit of farming to get the materials. Yeah, but it's still, because then you're talking about a situation where it's, in those times, even when you're done with the raid, obviously at the moment it's fine because there's no AP to farm and there's no legendaries to farm and there's nothing to farm. But there's been various times in the expansion where there has. So even when you finish the raid tier, you were getting ready for the next one and there was AP to farm and there's legendaries to acquire. Unless you were lucky and got all the get best ones early on. I don't even know what my guild's going to do with regards to Argus, because there seems to be quite a lot for me that don't seem very keen on the progress. And although I think they're joking, I've just got a very bad feeling that when we get Argus down eventually, instead of going into what would be a normal, okay, let's start fight, we go back and re-clear all the mythic bosses that we haven't been killing for a while, and try and get it down to killing the whole thing in one night eventually. I've got a feeling some people are going to be mysteriously absent for quite some time. There'll be some people, I'm absolutely certain, would jump at the chance of not coming back until BfA. Which is a bit grim. An expansion launch, you'd not be surprised if you feel the need to find a higher end guild where expectations are there. You obviously should, above all things, join... Well, yeah, I mean... You have to identify what you want from a guild. And if what you want is progress at any cost, like there are some people that will say, you know, I want to get in the highest progress guild I can. I will join a group of 20 odd other toxic, autistic arseholes. And that doesn't matter. I don't care. I just want to get the best progress I can. But if you care more about, you know, other aspects of the guild, you have to be honest with yourself about that. But if what you want is progress at any cost, then obviously there's a long time now to do it. This is the ideal time for people who are not happy with their current guild to wait until it's done, if it's not already done. And then you've got ages. You can apply to them at any time. There's like 6 months to apply. Easy. And even then, when an expansion comes out, some guilds suddenly find, because obviously, like guilds, mythic guilds that get cutting edge, by the time Battle for Azeroth comes out, they'll have been raiding one night a week for like a few months. Sometimes some of them think, do you know what, I've quite enjoyed just playing one night a week and doing other stuff as well. And they think, do you know, it's not worth coming back. And so all of a sudden you'll get a few spots opening up in those guilds. So even when the expansion comes out, it's still an open window for a recruitment. So it's by far the best time of an expansion to try and find a new guild when the final tier is over. Why do people play the game if they're going to quit once they accomplish something once? Different people are different. I mean, I'm sort of okay with it. I'm a bit less okay with people who don't try and help the others out. Like, for example, I don't care about ranks, percentiles, but I've been in guilds, for example, where the deal is this. Everyone does the mechanics properly. We kill these bosses as quickly as possible. We get a good rank in. You know, we've got our cutting edge. At that point, when we're doing farm of it, we're okay taking a bit longer of our farm, and those people who want to get ranks will set it up in such a way that they can get ranks, you know, either let them solo AoE mobs, you know, whatever. Now, I was always quite happy to just do the crap jobs on that. I will stand in a corner or just run around collecting things and not do any DPS to help those people out, because they helped me out by getting the fast progress. So, you know, it's that sort of teamwork. Or if people are loot whores, then again, once progress is over, well, I don't care about loot. You know, I will pass every time for them if that's what they want. But, yeah, if you get... I'm not as keen if people who only want to kill the thing once and get the title and not do it again, if they're not willing to help out me who wants to do it every week. Not least of which, it's important to raid it every week until the expansion comes out, because you need to know you've still got a guild. Like, if you just say, okay, that's it, we've done, see you in BfA, well, when BfA comes out, you might find you've only got 10 raiders left. You need to know who's about. You need them there every week. I mean, even then, as I say, you might find that some of them decide in the first week that they don't want to go back to a full raiding schedule. But there might equally be some people who know they don't want to come back to it, but don't bother saying anything. Whereas if they're having to come every week to do the farm, you know, you might get from them, or, you know, I'm thinking of just not bothering the next expansion. And then, you know, to replace them before Mythic's about to open up and all of a sudden you've got half a bloody roster. When the expansion started, you wasn't employed, so you had time to farm a lot. Just before Nighthole launched, you got a job, so you couldn't do it anymore. Yeah, obviously, yes. There's a lot of things that can affect your ability to raid. Getting a new job when you didn't have one, or just getting a different job, can be one. I mean, I remember... So, what happened? So I quit WoW just before Ulduar came out. Now, then my computer sort of fried, and then I sort of technically came back. When I eventually came back properly at the end of Cataclysm, it was the same thing for me. I was starting a new job, and I had a partner as well, relatively new. So my raiding was quite low-key to begin with, until I sort of got a handle on it, and then I sort of stepped it up a bit. Yeah. You plan on taking a week off after Argus dies? Sometimes guilds do that. You know, take a week off is sort of okay to recharge the batteries, although even then it's not advisable. But you certainly have to go the week after, because you've got to know you've got killed. There is no way of knowing you've got a guild or not, unless you expect people to be online at least once a week and to do some activity together. Yeah, even after 2, you got so used to one night, you suddenly jumped to 3. It was taxing. Yes, I remember those days. I've not experienced them in Legion. If we've had cutting edge, it's been by the skin of our teeth. So, yes, but I do remember the days when you got things on nice, comfortable farming once a week, and then the next tier would come out and it was back into it again. Which was also nice for doing stuff for the channel, because it meant, you know, I had more time to do that. Now, in Legion, no. No, my raid schedule is my raid schedule every week. You were playing Rainbow Six with the officers last night. You have a pool going on. People who quit immediately after progression with a token on the line for the winner. Is that all? Would it be better if they made raids shorter? They don't need to make raids shorter. You know, if they made raids shorter, they would make the gap between raids shorter as well. Oh, having 2 raids of 5 and 6 boss instead of 1 of 11. I don't know. I mean, they have done that before. I don't like that so much. I prefer 1 big raid. I mean, they do give you choice about which order you do certain bosses in. You know, that's a good thing, that it's not very linear. But in terms of having different raids, no, I don't like that personally, because then you've got to make a decision about which one do you do and on any particular night and how you manage it. It just adds more complications to what is already a logistical challenge, doing a raiding guild. What's my advice for raiders who don't take this game seriously? Join a guild where everyone doesn't take it seriously and enjoy your endless progress. So, you know, the bottom line is people are going to drive themselves crazy if they don't raid with people who have a similar outlook on raiding. I mean, because there's going to be times when people get shirty with each other as well, when you get a bit frustrated. Like the same person makes the same mistake over and over. Obviously, that gets annoying. But if you've got people who are not actually taking it seriously, in a guild where some people are taking it seriously, then they're doing a disservice to them. So you need to just have... You have to have at least the same aims, even if it's not the same motivations as each other for doing it. Oh yeah, that's another good point. The multiple cutting edges for a single tier for guilds that might not get both. Although I don't think they do that though, do they? I'm trying to think back now. What do they? Hold on. Now, if we go back to say Mr. Pandaria, in the first tier there were 3 raids. I've completely forgotten the names of them now, but I remember them. Oh, there was Heart of Fear. That was the last one. No, it wasn't. That was the second one, wasn't it? You had Mogashan Vaults, I think, or that might have been the dungeon. But the Mogashan raid, anyway, which ended with, like, the thing of the Emperor's thing. I can't remember. I've completely forgotten. Did that have a cutting edge? I've an idea. Was there a cutting edge for each of those 3 raids? And if there was, yes, then you could be quite right. If it comes to it and time is tight, you would probably... Would you favour the easier, less prestigious one? Or would you favour the more prestigious one and risk missing out on both of them? That is another point, actually. You have one specific Paladin who takes the game as a joke and everyone disagrees with what he thinks is funny, makes the same mistakes all the time, you still haven't kicked him. Why haven't you kicked him then, is the question immediately. Mogashan, yeah, but I can't remember what it was. It's Mogashan something. I don't think it was... There was Mogashan Vaults, but I've got an inkling that was the dungeon. What was the raid called? I don't know. But yeah, Heart of Fear and Terrace of Endless Spring. There were cutting edge for all of them, were there? Okay. Because the Shah one was the more prestigious, wasn't it? That was the end one. Oh, was it? Oh, it was Vault's the raid one. Okay. What was the dungeon called then? He's been with the guild for 13 years. Great. We can stay as a social then. That seems fine to me. The bottom line is, if everyone else is taking it seriously enough that they're annoyed by it, that person shouldn't be in the raid. Can be in the guild as a social, if they want to play as a social. Morgasham Palace. No, that doesn't sound right. Was it? Morgasham Palace. Oh. Do I have the mod? I didn't do challenge mode on my Paladin, no. I didn't do challenge mode in mob. It didn't interest me in the end. See, it would have interested me when no one on the realm had done it, but then I couldn't get a group to take a Paladin along. And then by the time, you know, I could have got a group to go along with it, all of a sudden then it was like passé. It wasn't really a challenge anymore. And I just thought, it looks crap anyway. I don't like the look of the armour. I didn't do it in WoD either because I thought the weapons were even more outlandish. So I had no interest in doing it for cosmetic purposes. And, you know, I wasn't interested in doing it for the sake of it. Because I say, the reason I play World of Warcraft as much as I do is the raiding. That's the one piece of content that keeps me in. And that's the piece of content that has to remain good. Otherwise, I would significantly reduce my playtime on it. Also, there's a ridiculous number of people use that transmog. So even if it didn't look ridiculous, it would look ubiquitous. It always amazes me that the transmogs I use, which are some of the more iconic Paladin sets, there's not actually that many people use them. Which is handy because I get to use the really good ones and I don't look like everyone else. Play due to friendships and the challenge of learning and maximising rent DPS. Well, it is a very social experience, of course. An MMO in a guild. If you actually do your activity, get yourself into a guild that does the activities you want. You just have to hope you don't end up with one where you don't get on with them at all. I've generally been okay. I mean, one thing I try and do is I try to find out what I can about a guild if I'm looking for a guild in terms of what they're like. I mean, you know, some people may remember when I was looking last time, there was quite a decently ranked Horde guild that was showing some interest. But I was not sure, and I remember asking them, because I'll always ask them, what's the atmosphere like in raids? And they was like, what do you mean? So I was thinking, well, you know, is there a lot of toxic behaviour? Are there cliques that will decide to keep, you know, tearing someone down, that sort of thing? And they were very, you know, non-committal with their answer. So I thought, well, what I really want to do is find a stream of these guys raiding. And I couldn't find a stream, but I did find some kill videos that had the voice comms over it, which is not as good. Because obviously even a toxic guild might come across well enough on a kill. Because the kill, bear in mind, is the try where it goes right. So, you know, what you ideally want to see is some progress where things are going wrong. How are they behaving then? That's what I actually wanted to see. But anyway, I watched this kill video and I thought to myself, the way the raid leader was talking sounded a bit, you know, off. It didn't sound very pleasant. And this was the kill. This is where things were going well. And I didn't know how much of it was just harmless banter or how much of it was real. But given their non-committal... Like, if someone asked me that question... Because, I mean, the guild I was in before was certainly not for sensitive people. If you were into political correction, wasn't for you. But everyone was really nice. No one was toxic in it. And, in fact, one guy was toxic in it and they were kicked from the guild for being toxic. So that was absolutely fine. So the fact that they couldn't immediately say to me, oh, no, everyone's actually fine. There's a bit of banter, but everyone is actually gets on really well and it's all that sort of stuff. The fact that they couldn't say that to me made me think, And I am not one of those people that will join a group of 24 soulless arseholes just to get better progress. So, no. Even though I'm not personally affected by it, if anyone gives me shit, I will give them shit back. But it's still not a pleasant atmosphere to be in. Your buddy was in a guild you couldn't say cancer in. Or if anyone swears. Oh dear. No, I'm fine with Monty Python insults. Your guild is full of aerospace engineers, software developers. They're all extremely PC and like to bash Trump on a weekly basis. What, only a weekly basis? When he gives so much ammunition every day? Oh no, I mustn't be political because obviously people are allowed their views, but there was an amazing tweet that I saw a bit ago. Where was it? Must post it. Hold on. Only briefly though. All in hopefully good fun. Quite like that one. That's my favourite tweet of the day. I didn't know aerospace engineers and software developers were so PC. If you go an entire raid night without dropping something, something's gone horribly wrong. Well, I mean, as I say, the last guild I was in was quite like that, but it was only meant in fun, and no one was actually genuinely rude. So hi, man for lazy. So yeah, there is a difference between people who are just joking, but they are the reason why I couldn't start streaming raids until I was able to come up with some way of filtering out Discord, which of course now I have. And like I say, the one time when I was in my last guild, my current guild, you'd probably get away with it, although there are times. It's a much smaller proportion of the time, but there are times where it would be more bother than it's worth. But in the last guild, it would constantly be bothered. And I remember one time when I didn't have the voice meter banana connected, and I just thought, oh, do you know what? Sorry, it's only one night. We'll just do this. 15 minutes in, I had to connect it up because chat was going mad. They were going. They thought they were thinking all the people I raided with were arseholes, complete and utter arseholes, scum of the earth. So I thought, shit. So I had to just set it up. You've got a woman in her 30s in the guild, and she got hit by scythe. Oh yeah, well, this is another reason why I don't stream on YouTube. Because you would have thought it would have made a lot more sense, given that I already had some presence on YouTube, to have just done my streaming in YouTube. I would certainly get a lot more people watching it. And in theory, it would be a lot better for me personally just to do that. The downsides to it is that if anything happens, You know, if anything happens here, I get banned from Twitch. Oh no, disaster. Okay, all right, it's not ideal, but you know, I don't really have a presence on Twitch. But if it was on YouTube and it affected my YouTube channel, which inevitably it would, that actually would be a disaster. That would be a problem. Yeah, Voice Meter Banana. Basically, Voice Meter Banana and Virtual Audio Cable are pieces of software that I donate where. So, you know, you can download for free, but, you know, you donate it. I donated anyway, because obviously someone's produced it. And it allows you to tune out one audio source. So I set my Discord, instead of having my Discord output go to my headphones, I have it go to the virtual audio cable, and then through Voice Meter Banana, which is like a software sound mixer, I can have the virtual audio cable go to my headphones, but not through to my game sounds, which would of course feed into here. At the moment it would, because I don't have it set up for this. Ordinarily, I'd be quite happy having Voice Meter Banana set up all the time. But sometimes, especially if I'm opening and closing programs a lot, I notice, it goes weird and it makes me sound like a robot and it's quite harsh on the ear. So occasionally that will happen in a raid. Very rarely, but it does occasionally happen. It's not a problem to deal with. I just have to close it. Someone has to tell me it's happening because I won't necessarily know. And then I close it down and open it up again. It takes a few seconds, no problem. But obviously, on a night like this, when I'm not going to be on the Discord, it's just easier. Same as at the weekend. It's just easier to just put it through the normal sound. Everyone be ready to get me banned for 72 hours. No, it won't work. You just get yourself banned. Because it has, I mean, it's like anything else. It's mostly, if, you know, I don't know. Because even potentially some things I say, I mean, I'm not racist, of course. But I might swear every now and then. Because the problem is, like with me streaming my raids, I mean, I behave myself here, by and large. But when I'm streaming raids, see, I use push to talk. And I've always used push to talk, even when I've been a raid leader. And the reason I use push to talk is because I mutter and moan and swear a lot when I'm raiding. So the reason I started using push to talk many years ago during Vanilla was so that I could spare my fellow raiders all my muttering and moaning. Unfortunately, that doesn't work for the stream. So the stream gets gets all my muttering. You've never heard me angry. Oh, there was one time in Legion when I was a bit pissed off. I haven't been that angry. Obviously, as you get older, you mellow a little bit. But I did get a little bit angry during a very close to. It was actually my last night on Kill Jaden, and it was because it was my last night. We were almost killing it. We were there, and we were running out of time. And I knew, because I had parents' evening the next night, and I knew if we didn't kill it tonight, we would kill it the next night, but I wouldn't be there parents' night. And that's exactly what happened, by the way. So I don't have the cutting edge on Mythic Kill Jaden, which is hugely annoying. So there was a bit where I did basically blow up, but I don't do it very often. And it was controlled anger. It wasn't me actually exploding, but you know. Your bi-weekly Drunken raid nights? Oh no. There was though. Oh no, can I find it? Let's see if I can find it. There was, during TBC, a night where we were going to have a farm night. And we went to Tempest Keep. This is when we were doing... we were at the end of Black Temple. So we were basically close to or on Illidan. And we decided to do a bit of a fun farm night on a Friday evening or something in Tempest Keep. But our main tank got drunk. He'd been drinking whiskey. And he was so pissed they didn't know what was going on. What would happen is he'd keep pulling stuff when there was no one there and stuff like that. And we'd end up in a right mess. It was just no chance. We got so pissed off, we all left. We thought, well, raid's cancelled. Our main tank's fucking pissed. And we all half-stoned back to Shatra City. But he didn't realise he was still pulling. So he'd be saying over TeamSpeak, are you all ready? And we'd be going from Shatra City over the TeamSpeak. Yeah, we're ready. And he'd pull and they'd go, oh, I'm dead. Oh. And he didn't realise we'd gotten for ages. He was too pissed to realise we'd left him. And then he started singing drunkenly. I'm going to see if I can find the video. Let me see. I put it at the end of the Illidan kill video. So, hold on. I need to... Let's... Hold on, let me just turn the sound off a bit till I find the right bit. I'm assuming you'll be able to hear this. Because I can't play, because I've got copyrighted music over the actual kill itself. But what I want is over the credits, where I actually recorded some of his drunken singing. Right, hold on. This should hopefully be it. Let's see. Sound up.
Okay. Vibrato, yeah.
You're sick.
Come on. G string, yeah. Come on. Don't you cry tonight. There's a heaven. Okay. Did my guitarist fall asleep? Yeah.
So basically, he just got pissed on a load of Jack Daniels. That was my tank of 10 years ago, about 10 years ago. So yes, we didn't get to raid that night. Oh no, I have had to get pissed off before. In fact, was it in that guild? No, it wasn't that guild. It was a guild I was in TBC. What country was from? I can't remember. It's 10 years ago. I've been in loads of guilds since then. But no, another guild I was in TBC. The very first night I was in, my very first raid with them, my first night of being a trial, I was shouting at the raid leader. Because we were doing Kel'Thas. We were more specifically doing the Trash and Kel'Thas's room. Now, the Trash and Kel'Thas's room was extremely nasty. You had to have a tank on each mob because they hit like trucks. And of course, you know, you heal on each tank. And I was healing the raid leader. And he died and he was blamed. Oh, I didn't get healed in such and such. So I, of course, posted up the fact that he was being spammed with not just little pissy flash of lights, which of course nowadays is the more beefy heal. But, you know, at the time that was the pissy little heal. But whacking great holy lights, I was throwing everything at him. The reason he died, and I was basically, so I proved first of all he was getting healed. And second of all, I said, the reason you died is because actually one of the other tanks died. Their mob started attacking you, but it was hitting him from behind. As a warrior tank, that's not very good because he can't block those attacks. So it was basically hitting him from behind where he couldn't parry, couldn't block. And I said, that's why you died, because you were letting that bloody mob hit you from behind. Rah, 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 rant, 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 rant. He didn't know what hit him. I passed my trial, it was fine. But, so I have had to, like, you know, bite back when people have given me shit before. Evening, Mystic Weaver. But I haven't had to do it very much. I mean, generally speaking, as long as you choose your guild. I mean, back then it was very difficult to choose an appropriate guild because it was really just a case of applying. I suppose in theory you could have created an alt character on the realm, and if you because realm transfers then, you know, but you generally just applied to a guild and hoped for the best. Command Center is up. Legendary follower equipment for free. Is it? I was told the free seals one was up, which would be equally pointless. Because I've got 6 seals at the moment and I can't really spend them because we're not clearing any bosses. And I can't be asked to pork heroic. And we don't seem to be doing it as a guild anymore. Even on the alt knights. The alt knights seem to have died a death. On Agrimar last night, your paladin tank said, I didn't get heals. And he was hit for 8 million damage, you know. Well, this is the thing about tanks. See, the thing is, they only have one excuse now, didn't get heals. They used to have two. So, tanks never used to accept responsibility. Back in Vanilla and TBC, if they died, it was because of the healers. And if they lost aggros, it was because of the DPS. And the reason they could say that is because sometimes it's true. Sometimes if a tank dies, it is because they didn't get healed properly. And sometimes if they lose aggro, it was because some DPS had gone mad, because DPS had to watch their threat as well. You know, before threat was eliminated as an actual thing. So they used to just go like that, you know. They never used to accept any responsibility. You played a game on Agrimar for how hard can a tank get hit in one swing? Dodged 2 sets completely. Tank got smashed the third time for 400 million, yes. Because another thing is, TBC, warrior tanks used to piss me off. I used to have running battles with them. Because the thing is, what warrior tanks used to do, this was their master plan, is they'd load up with stamina. So all their jams would be stamina. And then they'd deliberately stand in shit because it helps them generate rage. And then go and blame me when they got 2 hits for like 3/4 of their health each within a second. As if I'm supposed to do anything about that. All I used to say if they tried to give me any shit then was, well, those stamina gems didn't seem to help you there, did they? Stop standing in shit. So, yeah. Paladin tanks was a similar thing, though. I mean, I'm not saying Paladin tanks were necessarily better, because they had a similar mechanic, which all Paladins had. We had spiritual attunement, which wasn't that useful for Ret Paladins, unless you were Horde, in which case it was bloody useful. But for Holy Paladins and for Protection Paladins, it was really good. So for Protection Paladins, again, if you took damage, that means you needed more healing. More healing meant more spiritual attunement, meant more mana, meant you could use more abilities. Bargain. Would getting back to vanilla BC aggro fix Mythic plus Rushers? It would absolutely fix Mythic plus Rushers. However, it might also fix the number of people that like doing Mythic plus. You know, people are just not up for dungeons taking a long time now. They just don't want that. You know, the days of a dungeon taking basically your evening, if you counted the time it took to get the group together as well, are gone. Can't do that. So no, you can't go back to that sort of system anymore. And it would be horrendous because most tanks don't know what they're doing. They couldn't cope with threat. Oh, I don't know. It would make it any worse on Skittish. Skittish is bad enough anyway. I mean, I worry a bit less about it as a paladin, because I can take a few smacks to the face. And you know, if it's going to be a bad dungeon for Skittish, I will take obviously my cheat death braces, and I have my cheat death talent, which will be disappearing in BfA. I won't have either. You know, at the moment, I can equip 2 cheat death things if I wish. In BfA, I won't have any of them. I'll just have to go back to good old-fashioned, you know, predicting the future for when to bubble. You for one like asking tanks for their TPS reports. Well, there's no value in those anymore. Any sensible tank would probably respond to that with, I hit the boss, I have aggro, end of story. Skittish can be awkward in high if you're getting into a high key. Obviously high for what you're sort of used to. Some people don't like getting smacked in the face. It's not the worst one. The 30 to 60-minute dungeon is great for parents that get child or spousal aggro. What was my question for Ian? Oh, yeah, my question for Ian, right? Let me see if I can remember it. I can. I put it on the North American forums as well. So basically what I asked was... It was a complete non-question because I thought there's no point in asking a sensible question because they won't answer it. So I'll ask a non-question. Maybe they'll answer it then. And it was, I said, do they wish that there were fewer DPS specs for the pure DPS classes to help focus class identity, because all too often it ends up being spec identity in order to make them all sort of different, and we don't, you know, we don't get to feel the real class identity anymore, the class fantasy. So I tried to come at it from that angle. I can't remember exactly how I worded it. Although I don't, to be honest, think I even have a proper question. If it's going to be on Battle for Azeroth Alpha and not just Battle for Azeroth, I'm not sure I have a question. Again, that might change. You know, if they decide to push another Alpha build before that Q&A, and I'm guessing they will. Well, no, actually I have two guesses. My first guess is that they will, and that a lot of the questions will be to do with that new build. My second guess is that they won't. They'll do a Q&A where they talk about what's coming up in the next build, which might be Warfront stroke, Azerite armor stroke, Island exploration. And then maybe they push that build on Friday. I don't know. I think it's more likely. Whether it goes tonight is another matter, though. I mean, the last couple of weeks it's come out on a Tuesday. It doesn't mean it will again, though. The server, well, it still seems to... I haven't downloaded anything yet. I guess the servers are still up. Your question would have been in regards to more details on Azerite, since it currently looks like Crucible. I think it's supposed to be farmable, though. I mean, yeah, it's got the different tiers, but I think I don't think it's random what you get. I think it's like, you know, the Azerite armor has set traits on it available to you, and depending on where it drops from. But certainly, I mean, those are the main questions to answer, because nothing, like I was saying earlier, nothing in the alpha currently is BfA. None of it. It's all, you know, the BfA new things are, you know, those three things: Azerite armor, Warfronts, Island exploration. None of those are testable at the moment in the alpha. So I can only imagine they're planning on bringing at least one of them out in the next build. Otherwise, why do the Q&A? There's nothing to talk about. I mean, people will ask... I know what questions people are going to want to ask. They're going to say Zandalari Paladins, to which he will either say, yes, they're going to be a thing, or they are going to be a thing but not at launch, which is what I think, or you'll just have to wait and see. Or not currently planned, or something vague like that. People will ask, oh, is there a Horde, Horde bias in BfA? To which he'll just go, no. So that'll be a pointless question to ask. What hairstyle will Law be rocking? I reckon he's going to have it tied back on Thursday. I'm going to go for tied back. And I would also probably guess wearing shorts and sandals, but we probably won't see that. Hi, Pinky. I'm okay, thank you. Wonder if he'll tease something with the orcs. Oh, undoubtedly. Undoubtedly. Probably one or two interesting things and 28 useless questions. No, I don't know. No, mostly the Q&As have some points of interest. I mean, you know, obviously, yes, a good half of it, I would say, maybe, is not useful. But, you know, last Q&A obviously was an aberration, because that was a marketing thing. You know, that's like the equivalent on a talk show of getting someone on who wants to plug their book. You know, that's what that was. So that wasn't the normal sort of thing. Guess that's how he fits in the door. Well, exactly. I mean, that place where they're in now. I mean, that's not the place they originally used either. I think they tried saying something like, you know, the place they use now is what they've custom built for it. It looks like a cupboard. I wouldn't fit into it. I'm thinking, what the hell? I don't understand. I do not get Blizzard. How can they not have a room, a dedicated room for doing web conferencing at the very least? How does a tech company of any standard at all not have a room that is suitable for doing something like that, like a studio, just for that? My room, this bloody room here, is more suitable than theirs for that purpose. It's in my house. It baffles me. It completely baffles me. So I don't know. I don't know what the reason is for that. It's obviously because no bugger else uses it. Like, they should have weekly... There is no reason not to have weekly questions, like Q&As, because it wouldn't just have to be World of Warcraft as such. You know, you could have developers doing it for the other games they do. So, you know, a room where it could be in regular use if Blizzard actually did this on a regular basis. But it seems that Ian Hazakostas is the only one who wants to do it. So what do I think of Preacher's boost to 110 and how long it takes to get Argus? I don't know. My leveling series, yeah, I didn't end up doing the leveling series, did I, in the end? It's another series that I was going to do, and now I might as well not bother because Preacher's going to do it. Yeah, I saw him tweet that he was making a new account and all the rest of it for that purpose. But I don't know. I don't know what's to be said from it. I don't know what it's going to try and prove from it. Leveling is more of a pain. You know, leveling, in theory, has had some improvements made to it, but the overall package is that it's more of a pain in the arse than it used to be. I mean, if that's the angle it's going to take, you don't need to make a new account to prove it. It's Ian's crying room. Nah. It always looks very calm and in control, does Ian Hazakostas. After he reads the forums, nah, Water Off Reduct's back, I reckon. I don't reckon it phases him. You got to remember, this guy used to be a lawyer, didn't he? You know, he's got a heart of stone. What was the latest Blizzard video supposed to be? It takes heroes to make heroes. What was it? I don't know what that is. What's that? It's not for leveling. He boosted to 110. So what's the... Hang on. What's the purpose then? Druscal, sorry. He's created a new account to get a character and boost it to level 110. For what reason? Oh, is it a gearing up? Right, okay. Yes, I mean, yeah. Obviously a veteran player, and especially a veteran player who has got easy access to plenty of people. Like, he will just, you know, he'll get some gear and then he'll get some people to do Mythic Plus with him. You know, so someone who's got access to all that, obviously, yeah, it's not going to be real. Unless, of course, he's going to do it incognito and just pug it normally without saying who he is and without streaming it. Because obviously if he's streaming it, people will know who he is on his character. So if that's what he's planning on doing, it might be valid. But obviously if he's streaming it, people are going to know who he is and they're going to help him out and do the Mythic Pluses with him. Well, he said, yeah, not use his guilds or anything, but if he's streaming it, people will know who he is. They'll know what his character is. The only way to make it realistic... And even then, bear in mind that he's a veteran player, so he'll know various ins and outs as well. So he's not... Okay, well, that's fair enough then. So if he's not going to let people know who it is, and obviously there's not going to be... If it's a totally separate account, different Battle.net or whatever, then... or if it's like me, I suppose, if he's doing it on another, like the NA... Very good player who will easily get into groups. Well, that might depend on the class he plays. To get into groups, doesn't matter how good a player you are. They don't know that. So you can sometimes end up with bad players getting into groups. And sometimes you'll get good players who don't get into groups. Because there'll be some largely spurious method of judging who is and who isn't. Even so, once he releases videos of it, people know who he is. Well, once he's released the videos, presumably, then it's done. Project finished, I guess. The thing is, by level boosting it as well, though, his starter gear will already give him a big leg up. It's not like being in gear that you would actually have if you dinged 110. How can you get free game time? Play World of Warcraft a lot, sell stuff on the auction house, get 300k gold in the EU, I don't know how much it is on NA, and buy a WoW token. Oh, he's a Warlock. Oh, yeah, okay. Well, being a tank or a healer would probably make it easier. But a Warlock's usually snapped up in raids as well. Apart from anything else, you get a summon. Once you get into a group and they see you're good, they might invite you to their guild. Do people actually do that? Oh, yeah, not doing tank or healer because it would be too easy. Well, that's fair enough. It would be too easy then, yeah. Absolutely. Of course, he could have made it tougher and being a melee DPS and not a rogue. But anyway. But yeah, Warlock will be... because they get health stones out of it. They get a res. It's a battle res. And it's ranged. And it's a range that can look after themselves. So it's actually quite a desirable class to get into groups with. Yeah, you're picking up random personal pug would never have... Like, it used to in vanilla, it was the sort of thing that happened. In fact, I used to, in vanilla and TBC to a lesser extent, actively go out to do pug dungeons, even when I didn't need to, specifically to try and spy talent. And then I used to poach them. One time, to my shame... I even spent 2 hours persuading a gnome to come to my guild. But he was a very good gnome. He was a warlock. It's called Stumpy. Yeah, but he won't be on 880 though, will it? Oh, will he? Oh yeah, that is the starting gear, isn't it? I was thinking it was higher than that. No, you think you're right. Yeah, as gnomes go, it was a good gnome. It was the only gnome I ever have actively recruited, I have to say. I've accidentally recruited others who were sneaky. That was the only one I actually went to any efforts to get. And it was in vanilla, when I didn't hate them as much as I do now. I was still learning at the time. Ah, where's that gone? Oh yeah, there's someone saying there about those WoW head posts. Some people complaining that we didn't say much about mobility. But the reason for that is that we were restricted to 1.5 pages. In fact, I had to rip out all my discussion on mobility because it was not as important as some other things. There's no point in having good mobility if you can't actually hit whatever you've got up, where you've moved up to. You miss the days when you're all noobs. Well, so did Blizzard. Ian Hazakostas has been quite vocal on the point that he would have preferred it if none of us knew how to play the game, because it would make it easier to deal with. Because then no one would care about balance. Or everyone would care about it, but no one would be able to form any coherent arguments about it. No, classic servers will be very different to original WoW in a number of key areas. One of which, of course, is that, the add-ons won't be the same, even though obviously they'd have to be written along the same lines as original WoW. They would be different ones. People would know more about the game. Guides would be, more people are likely to actively seek out guides, whereas they didn't before. I suppose even I will have to do one. Or will I? I don't know. I can be asked. No, I might not be asked for classic ones. Because I'm not going to play on it enough anyway. I'd have to get it to level capped. Ugh. Curious if elitism won't be the death of classic. I think it'll be fine. I think it will do fine. I think it'll be popular enough and remain popular. It'll be okay. It won't matter that there'll be some people that play it and then decide it's not what they want. I'm more concerned about the people who know what it is and they're quite happy for that, but they don't get the exact version that they want. Because, there's a lot of things that can be different. Like, on the mailbox I was talking about something, I forgot what it was now. To do with Paladins anyway. And then I said something that was actually wrong and someone reminded me. I thought, oh yeah, I remember now. And then I tried looking up some vanilla talent trees just to remind myself of a few things. But all the ones I could find weren't the original talent trees. It was the ones that came in towards the end of vanilla. Excuse me. Because that's another big thing. Do we get the talent trees that were towards the end of vanilla? Or do we get, which I bet we do, by the way, or do we get the talent trees that were there at the start of vanilla, which were very, very different? Completely different, in fact. There's no reason to play on Classic if you enjoy live WoW, but there are people that enjoyed vanilla WoW and don't like the current version, in which case there is a reason to do it, and those people will want to play it, and that's fine. That is fair enough. Back then you could be below average and still get into groups, of course. Because no one had any way of knowing whether you were any good or not. You didn't even get people inspect you. Someone would just say, looking for a whatever for this run, you would say, I am such a person, and they would go, come on then. Survival Hunter could kiss my ass though. They used to try and nick my gear. I was so glad when I got to because they were even nicking bloody strength gear. Idiots. Can do without those sort of people. Now people know what specs are good and which they're all, by the standards of vanilla, all the specs now are good because they're all feasible. Some might be better than others, but all of the specs are good. Back then, some specs were embarrassing. If you played an arcane mage in vanilla, you just got laughed at. Protection Paladin, the only benefit in Protection Paladin, as soon as Reckoning Bomb was fixed anyway, was 15-minute salvation. But again, once, blessing, greater blessings came in 1.9, but that was no point anymore. Gearscore add-on Warcraft logs in class. Well, Warcraft logs will be in Classic. Gearscore add-on, I guess someone's probably going to do one, aren't they? Maybe. Unless Blizzard... I suppose Blizzard might decide that certain add-ons, especially ones that weren't in vanilla, would be undesirable. And Gearscore would be one such example. because item level wasn't visible on gear in vanilla. So they might decide, all things considered, that they disable the ability for add-ons to be able to do that. Or that they ban such add-ons. That might be more difficult. Because they wouldn't... I mean, you could bring it... You could do an add-on that's basically just a database. And has item level based on the actual database of the gear. As it's known now. I don't know. Eye level was also not the... for gear from vanilla. The thing... Well, it was... You know, the gap between the item level you would have as a freshly dinged 60 and in the best Nax gear was not as big as it is now. I mean, obviously, if you brought someone in questing greens into Nax, they would get their head kicked in. So I'm not saying you didn't need decent gear, but it wasn't as extreme as it is now. Like, for example, I turned down tier 3. I mean, a full set of tier 3 would have been way better than what I was using, but individual pieces of it were not, and it looks retarded as well. So I just decided, no, I don't want it. Well, the other thing as well, Gillian, is, and I imagine they're going to keep with this system, crit... And, you know, the secondary stats, basically, were percentage-based, not rating-based. Rating came in the pre-expansion patch because it was going to be needed for TBC. So there was a situation, there were some plate boots, I remember, I think it was boots, that had, like, basically plus 3% on stats. It was like plus 2% on something, plus 1 on something else. I can't remember now, I've completely forgotten. But there were some level 40-ish items that had percentage to haste, crit, that sort of thing. Or, I don't think it was called haste then, but whatever it was. Which at level 60 would be still a very desirable piece of gear. Because it didn't matter they didn't have that much of the primary stat on it. It had full-on percentage of this secondary stat. So then what they had to do in TBC, they thought, well, this can't carry on. And then they brought in ratings. But at the time, it wasn't. It was just, you know, 1% of this, 2% of that. Comparing Diamore blues to entry-level raid, yes. Oh yeah, Diamore. I mean, Diamore tribute runs were still done by people who raided in early days. Same with even Blackrock Depths runs for some pieces. Intellect gear on a warrior would give you a very low gear score for that slot. Yeah, you see, I think Blizzard would try and avoid having such add-ons, because that would definitely, even though I expect there to be some add-ons that weren't about, there are some that would inherently change the culture of the game, and they probably need to try and avoid that. And a gear score add-on would completely wreck the WoW culture in a way that, I mean, there's things that, the other things that will hit it as well, but that's one of those things that would completely wreck it, and Blizzard might be able to do something about it. Casters had to balance their spell hit. I remember when priests all of a sudden had to do that in Naxxramas. Our healing priests who didn't give a shit about spell hit, until, of course, they were the ones who had to mind control Resuvius. Or specifically his students. Resuvius' students. That was... or was it Resuvius? Forgotten how the bloody fight went now. Did you mind control Resuvius to kill the students, didn't you? Or was it? You mind controlled something on that fight anyway. It's Priest that did it, I don't know. And all of a sudden they needed spell hit, because the last thing you wanted on that fight was for him to go, right, it's your turn to mind control now. Oh, I missed. Because then you'd just wipe. That was it, gone. And a lot of people didn't really understand about hit as well. That became more or better understood in Burning Crusade, I felt. I think by the end of Burning Crusade, people were pretty much onto the idea of ideally wanting to get hit capped. But in vanilla, it wasn't as big a thing. No, I mean, there were people, obviously, that did go to some pains to try and understand it a bit better. But the majority didn't. But anyway, we've been going on for quite a while now. So I'm going to call this one to a bit of a close. Thanks for coming on. Obviously, it's going to be action-packed week this week because there may be a new build out before their Q&A. They've got their Q&A on Thursday. I'll presumably be talking about some of it on Friday. I will be streaming on Friday as well in the alpha, which hopefully will be a new build, assuming that's up. So thank you very much for coming on. I shall see you later. Have a good night, everyone. And until next time, which will be tomorrow, I guess, when I'm going to be back on Mythic Argus Progress again. Where every night, every new night we've done on it, we have got a new best. So if that carries on, we might kill it in the next month. But yeah, see you later.